Don't worry, there are more coming.
Mark Yu is just a little boy, a 10-year-old who loves toy pigs. But this little kid has big dreams to match his outsized talent.
Of course, I still want to be a concert pianist. And I wish I can play with important orchestras.
We first introduced you to Mark a year ago, a piano prodigy from the suburbs of LA who could barely reach the pedals and had to stretch his tiny hands to span the notes. But even at the tender age of 9, he was going places. To London's renowned Royal Albert Hall, to be exact, where last year he performed with his idol, Chinese concert pianist Lang Lang.
It was really exciting. It's every musician's dream.
A dream he's had since age 3 when he told his mother he wanted to be a concert pianist. Now he's 10.
My technique is much better than 1 year ago. And now both of my hands can reach an octave.
And now he's reaching rarefied atmosphere, Carnegie Hall, his name on the marquee with his idol, Lang Lang. He's dreamed of playing there, well, most of his life.
It's like looking at the moon, and how am I going to get there? And the answer is always what my mother said, practice.
So, for the last year, it's been practice, 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 and one last practice on the stage at Carnegie Hall before the crowds flocked in. And on this night, practice made perfect. So what happens when you reach your goal at so young an age? Well, who says you can't do it again?
I would love to come back to Carnegie Hall alone someday, and I think I will.
Mark Yu is a little kid with big dreams. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
There was absolute euphoria at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory when that first rover touched down on Mars and pictures started streaming in. And 3 weeks later, its twin landed safely on the other side of the red planet. And now?
And our standard tier NavCam and PanCam.
There's daily disbelief. The rover's spirit and opportunity are still at it, well beyond their original 90-day warranties. No one more surprised than project lead scientist Steve Squires.
It's been 2 years. And we're still going.
Because Martian winds and dust devils, a blur in this time-lapse sequence, unexpectedly are keeping the solar power panels clear of blinding dust and the rovers powered up to probe the surface. So far, providing convincing evidence that Mars once had water. It's still unclear if there was life.
We're going to be analyzing the data from this thing for decades. You know, we've taken well over 100,000 pictures. Okay, I haven't even seen them all.
All of which means rover driver Scott Maxwell,
we've got like outcrop under one wheel, right? Yeah. We've got some traction going somewhere.
Is also still at it. He pilots the rovers to go where the scientists want to explore. And that very first drive still seems like just yesterday.
At that moment, 100 million miles away on the surface of another planet, there was a robot doing what I told it to do.
And now the images captured here at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory are coming to a theater near you. The twin rovers are going Hollywood, stars of a new movie about their travels on the red planet.
The rover Odyssey from launch to the Martian landscape, seen on 100-foot-high IMAX screens.
They became almost human. They were up there being new astronauts, being explorers.
But the real show is still up there, where the rovers are still roving.
All I can tell you for sure is that I'll be here driving them until the wheels fall off.
And that's the new rover warranty. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Pasadena. Remember James Cameron walking the red carpet in 1997 at the premiere of his film Titanic? To some critics, he was a man walking the plank, headed for a sea of red ink with a $200 million movie that couldn't possibly cover its costs. Nearly $2 billion in sales later, along with 11 Oscars, including one for Best Director, the 50-year-old Cameron is doing quite nicely. and he's still getting his feet and cameras wet.
Camera looks clear.
After Titanic came Ghost of the Abyss, his documentary on the Titanic shipwreck and its watery grave. And this month, Cameron was on the red carpet again to introduce Aliens of the Deep, a bottom-of-the-sea tour of places and creatures that trump anything Hollywood can create, because they're real.
Oh my God!
10-foot-tall red and white tube worms swaying ever so slightly in the currents. A shimmering pink octopus with wings, no less. And out of the dark, fish that still look like their own prehistoric ancestors. All part of James Cameron's new neighborhood.
We're getting some street cred in the deep ocean business, definitely.
I grew up as a fan of science fiction. I love science fiction. I loved reading about alien worlds, alien civilizations, and the technology that we would create in order to get there. Well, now I get to do it.
Say goodbye to the surface world.
In the film, the ever-confident Cameron is a man on a mission, leading a small armada of deep-sea diving submersibles to explore the world's oceans, supported by an unlikely cast of characters, at least by Hollywood standards. That's no starlet, it's marine biologist Dejana Figueroa from the University of California, Santa Barbara.
The work that I did on this film is actually going to be in my PhD thesis, so it's actually advanced my career.
And seismologist Maya Tolstoy is studying a deep ocean volcano.
When it does erupt, then we'll have all that data beforehand to know what it was like before and after.
And this is Tori Holer, an astrobiologist.
I wound up on the cutting room floor, basically.
Holer and other astrobiologists who did make it into the film work for NASA, America's space program, the same folks who are now planning future manned missions to Mars and beyond.
Astrobiologists are interested, among other things, in figuring out how to look for life on other worlds.
2 ships, 4 manned submersibles, 40 dives at 10 sites in both the Atlantic and Pacific. I like big operations, but this one was off the hook.
What Cameron and his ensemble of scientists set out to do was visit a number of hostile environments deep in the Atlantic and Pacific, collect samples for later analysis, and document on 3D film their journey under the sea.
It's like being on the moon, huh?
Copy that.
It's because the ocean bottom is so hostile that marine biologist Figueroa and the others were drawn to it, to see what's there and how it survives.
There are places in the ocean where sunlight has never reached, not since the world began, and yet amazing life forms thrive there.
Where to, Kevin? You seeing this?
Look at that. How does a creature like this work?
Astrobiologist Kevin Hand was mesmerized.
How can something like that be alive?
And these.
Well, look at them swarming. They love it in the smoke.
Masses of shrimp gyrating in 750-degree heat from hydrothermal vents belching poisonous smoke on the ocean bottom. Cameron's subs lit up the perpetual night like a Hollywood set, and he sent in a small robot camera called Jake to take close-ups.
The party's been going on down there in the dark for the last billion years, and it's going to be going on for the next billion years. They're just doing their thing. It's got nothing to do with us. The sun could go out tomorrow, and they wouldn't know, and they wouldn't care.
We're getting in position to get a water sample from the top of one of these structures. Over.
And at the bottom of the food chain, feeding everyone else, the bacteria. Astrobiologists like Pamela Conrad wonder if this is a model for life in the really extreme environments in outer space.
There's definitely organic stuff there.
So the more they can find out about these extreme environments, the more they'll be able to recognize what they're seeing maybe on Mars, or deep under the surface of Mars, or maybe further out in the solar system around the moons of Jupiter, let's say.
Which is what the astrobiologists have been thinking, that the Earth's mysterious, wet inner space may be very similar to a particular spot they know in outer space, Jupiter's moon Europa, a place with a frozen surface and quite possibly a huge liquid ocean beneath. The movie imagines an unmanned mission to Europa.
We believe that there's enough heat to have something like hydrothermal vents, like the very systems that we're studying here. A lot of people here believe that life on Earth began around these hydrothermal vents, and the excitement generated about Europa is that perhaps life there could have begun the very same way.
And that could answer some very intriguing questions. Are we really alone? Or is there some primordial stew bubbling away out in the universe? That's why the space scientist went deep-sea diving to get a better idea of what to look for.
3, 2, 1.
And why filmmaker James Cameron is so content in his deep-sea submersible. Science fiction is entertaining, but here, reality is beyond imagination.
Oh, this is gorgeous. I feel like I'm out there.
Are you liking this?
I'm loving this.
The hottest Hollywood drama this summer has the entertainment capital's movers and shakers on the edge of their seats. The story of tough-talking private eye Anthony Pellicano, a real-life gumshoe who saw himself as bigger than life, bigger than anything on the big screen.
What'll it be, kid, me or the cops?
The kind of private eye Hollywood invented.
He's like a character, a very minor character in The Sopranos. He's a pain in the ass.
Anthony Pellicano first made his name in L.A., helping make drug charges against automaker John DeLorean disappear, even when the feds had DeLorean on tape with cocaine.
Gold.
In the 1982 overdose death of comedian John Belushi, Pellicano helped lawyers get reduced charges and prison time for the woman who admitted giving the fatal injection. Playboy magazine lionized the Chicago native as a wizard, America's most tenacious private detective, and high-profile cases kept rolling in. The first childhood molestation claims against Michael Jackson didn't stick.
Anthony Pellicano.
After Jackson's attorney hired Pellicano to snoop around. Comedian Roseanne Barr used him to find the daughter she'd given up for adoption. And comedian Chris Rock's lawyers got Pellicano's help to fight off a paternity claim. In a town of outsized egos and incomes, Tony Pellicano was the go-to guy to take care of life's annoying problems.
He sounds like a living B-movie.
He is a B-movie. Yeah, he's sort of a jerk.
Peter Bart is a one-time studio head, now editor-in-chief of Variety, the industry Bible.
You'd hire him for what?
You'd hire him for intimidation. Because even if he doesn't tap phones, or if he doesn't push somebody around, if he surfaces, you know, people don't want someone like that around them. That's his business. He became a scary figure.
You could not make the Anthony Pellicano story. Nobody would believe it. Too far, too fictional. Makes the Da Vinci Code seem absolutely dead-on factual.
Entertainment attorney Peter Deckham.
Why is it so unbelievable?
The fish on the car is enough. Hand grenades, fish, wiretapping, threats, big players, big cases, major Hollywood names, major non-Hollywood names. It's overwhelming.
Pellicano actually was accused of ordering a dead fish and single red rose placed on a reporter's car mafia style to scare her off a story about a celebrity client. That led police to his office here on the Sunset Strip, where they found grenades and plastic explosives. And that put Anthony Pellicano in jail, where he remains today. And they found something else across the street, a gold mine.
According to federal indictments naming Pellicano and a dozen others on racketeering and wiretap charges, investigators found computers with thousands of hours of illegal recordings.
The heart of the prosecution case are these 10,000 tapes that they seized from Anthony Pellicano. And initially, they couldn't even listen to the tapes. They were encrypted. They had to enlist the NSA to get the help.
Lori Levinson is a former federal prosecutor who now teaches at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles.
But now that they're listening to the tape, they're bringing down many important people in town.
And what do the tapes reveal?
Well, the tapes reveal that Pellicano was wiretapping everybody, including his own clients, in violation of the law.
And that's making many people here so very nervous. The Pellicano tapes, and what and who may be on them.
The reason this is the investigator from hell is that he was tapping everyone. The people who hired him were being tapped. I mean, and that is indeed, could be the ultimate nightmare, is that the scary things he could do to people's reputations is limitless.
Powerhouse Hollywood attorney Burt Fields, with clients like Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg, used Pellicano extensively. He hasn't been indicted, but he said he was brought in for questioning. Also questioned by the grand jury, former super agent Michael Ovitz, whose lawyers reportedly hired Pellicano to investigate people bad-mouthing him. And Paramount chief Brad Gray was questioned too. Among the scores of victims named in the indictment, celebrities Gary Shandling, Keith Carradine, and Sylvester Stallone, targets of Pelicano's wiretaps and illegal background checks. And among Pelicano's alleged accomplices, 2 cops, a telephone worker, and a computer whiz. Also nailed but pleading not guilty, big shot attorney Terry Christensen, who allegedly used Pelicano wiretaps in a multi-million-dollar divorce case. High-profile divorces were a Pelicano specialty.
So you're warned that Anthony Pelicano is on your case.
Yes.
What does that mean? Judy Green knows.
It means that you are supposed to be in fear, terrorized, unable to sleep. You're going to be followed. You cannot talk on your telephone without wondering who's listening. You cannot speak confidentially to your attorney because your phone is probably listened to at home and on your cell. Your personal information is no longer your personal information. You cannot put your garbage away. You cannot function as a normal human being anymore.
Judy Green lived a life of luxury with her multimillionaire financier husband, Leonard, rubbing elbows with world celebrities. When the marriage failed, the divorce was ugly, and Tony Pelicano appeared in the flesh.
I pulled up right here to walk in to bring my dog inside, and immediately this Mercedes pulled up behind me perpendicular and blocked me in.
She didn't know who he was.
And he gave me this look and folded his arms and stood there. The menacing, bullying tactic, his body language said everything. And I thought, this is somebody related to this divorce. I don't know what it's about, but I've already been warned about Pelicano.
Her suspicions were confirmed in 2003 when she was called in to testify before the federal grand jury looking into Pelicano and all those recordings. A financial ledger belonging to her now deceased ex-husband showed a $25,000 payment to Pelicano for, quote, legal fees, L. Green divorce. For Judy Green, a lot of things now made sense.
I had many incidents that now that I look back, I was run off the road numerous times. I was threatened on the telephone at night and reported this to the police. I had the brakes on 3 of my cars disengaged in 1 week. I had the gate of my home disengaged for 5 days during that same week. I had the tires slashed of my car after I testified. There are numerous incidents that even like an onion, the layers are still unfolding and unpeeling.
The real mystery is why intelligent people would risk all by employing someone, says Variety's Peter Bart, who was known for bending, if not breaking the law.
Why are people who are making $10, $15, $20 million a year practicing celebrity law, why would they jeopardize their reputations? Do you realize how profoundly stupid that is? I mean, that's the big question in my mind. How could these people be that arrogant or that stupid?
You know, I think lawyers want to win too much, and that's what happened here. You had lawyers who wanted to win, and Anthony Pelicano was bringing them the goods, bringing them the information that they could use to win and find out about the other side's case.
Law professor Levinson says it's a classic case of situational ethics.
In the Hollywood culture, it's the idea that, you know, we don't really have to play by the same rules. We represent the stars, and whatever the stars need, we're going to get for them, regardless of the rules.
But now there may be Hollywood's version of hell to pay. Divorces, movie deals, celebrity contracts tainted by Pelicano's handiwork may all be undone.
A lot of people are going to be bankrupt. And that's one tip of many icebergs. Another iceberg that's drifting by the Arctic Circle is what happens to those cases that were decided based on evidence that was obtained through illicit means. Are all those cases going to get thrown out? And the answer is maybe.
There will be huge lawsuits that result from this. You know, people are going to sue the law firms for the wiretapping. The people are going to sue the law firms to undo prior judgments that were obtained by using illegally obtained evidence. But they're going to file many, many lawsuits, and they already have.
Judy Green may be next.
I am contemplating this now. The problem is I would need an attorney to do so. And the thought of having to deal with yet another attorney is more revolting than following through and getting what is rightfully mine.
Pelicano is scheduled to go on trial in October, but with prosecutors saying there will be more indictments, It's looking like a long, hot summer in Hollywood.
America at war. Tonight, shock and awe. U.S. warplanes unleashed the promised massive bombardment of Baghdad as U.S. ground troops barrel through the Iraqi desert, but they are meeting resistance. Surrender talks with some senior Iraqi military men continue, and U.S. Marines make the ultimate sacrifice, the first Americans to die in combat in the war.
This CBS News special report is part of our continuing coverage of America at War. From CBS News headquarters in New York, here is Dan Rather.
The voice of David Chater in Baghdad. With Allied ground forces 100 miles plus inside Iraq and counting, helping lead the push northward are Army troops of the 3rd Infantry Division. Some elements of the division have now crossed the Euphrates River. CBS's Jim Axelrod is with the 3rd on the move. He reports the troops are pleased but still wary.
The commander of the U.S. Army's 3rd Infantry Division's 1st Brigade combat team says the first day of the ground war, in his words, couldn't have gone better. From the Iraq-Kuwait border to the edge of the Euphrates River Valley in less than 6 hours. U.S. Army ground troops came across the border this morning at dawn. A massive operation. Columns of troops produced Hollywood pictures. Tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles, Humvees and supply trucks. Some of the 10,000 vehicles the 3rd employs. Earlier, a task force had secured the road and cleared it of mines. The task force commander described his encounter with 3 Iraqi soldiers during the process.
We did engage a truck with 3 Iraqis in it last night. What happened? We killed them. 3 KIAs.
3rd Infantry troops then moved north to seize a former Iraqi military airfield. After locating and destroying mines and unexploded bombs left over from Desert Storm, the airfield was secured. And Apache attack helicopters moved in. Another dramatic image. The airfield can now be used as a forward position for missions to the north of here. So far, the 1st Brigade has encountered no resistance and taken few prisoners. Tonight, the commander sat back in his mobile command post and savored what he called a successful first day.
This today is mobile armored warfare at its best.
Still, no U.S. commander is planning on day 1 becoming the rule here. The South was expected to offer little resistance, as Iraqi troops were pulled back closer to Baghdad. Duplicating day 1 could well become more difficult, as U.S. troops push further north. Jim Axelrod, CBS News with the 3rd Infantry Division in Iraq.
Remember the Enron tapes? Enron workers were heard manipulating the California energy shortage a few years back and gloating over it. Federal energy regulators now say Enron made more than $1.5 billion off that shortage. And today, more audio and documents surfaced. The first to indicate the scamming and scheming started years earlier than we previously knew. CBS's Vince Gonzalez gives you the inside story.
During the West Coast power crisis, homes went dark and streetlights were out in California, causing injuries and accidents. But the danger didn't stop Enron's energy traders from having a good laugh.
They had to do a rolling blackout through the town, and there was a red light there, he didn't see. That's beautiful. I'm like, this is causing animosity throughout the state now. Cars are blowing up.
Newly released evidence shows years before the crisis, Enron schemed to manipulate markets. The new tapes, routinely recorded by Enron to protect their own deals and later obtained by this small utility in Washington state, confirm what CBS News has been reporting for 4 years, that Enron secretly shut down power plants so they could cause and then cash in on the crisis.
We want you guys to get a little creative, okay, and come up with a reason to go down.
Plant operators were coached on how to lie to officials.
Just call them, hey guys, finish our queue after coming down.
Okay, so we're just coming down for some maintenance, like a forced outage type thing.
Right.
And that's cool.
Hopefully.
Enron also pulled power out of states like California, causing emergency conditions to worsen.
Sorry, California, I'm bringing all my power out of the state. I think I moved out
over 600 megawatts.
The shutdowns and pullouts triggered sky-high power prices.
We're just making money hand over fist.
And when states complained,
Get a f***ing clue.
Yeah. Leave us alone. Let us make a little bit of money.
Yeah, exactly.
When the schemes began to unravel, employees blamed the men running Enron.
Oh, I told you they were all crooks. I just didn't know how much.
As far as I'm concerned, nothing happened in Enron that Ken Lay didn't blast.
But former CEO Ken Lay, in this Enron training tape obtained by CBS News, had a different message.
Enron is a company that deals with everyone with absolute integrity.
A federal grand jury didn't buy it. Lay has been indicted, and the tapes could be used against him. A company spokesperson would only say Enron continues to cooperate with all ongoing investigations. Vince Gonzalez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
For more than a quarter century, Black Panther Party member Geronimo Pratt said he was the victim of an FBI setup. He was convicted of a murder he insists he did not commit. A year ago, CBS News turned up evidence the key prosecution witness was a police informer, something the jury was never told. This doesn't necessarily mean that Pratt is innocent. It may mean that he did not get a fair trial. Today, Geronimo Pratt walked free on bail and talked to CBS News correspondent Jerry Bowen.
After 25 years and 5 appeals, a victory for ex-Black Panther Geronimo Pratt today, victory and freedom.
We're going to keep on until we get what we know is ours.
The same law and order judge who overturned the ex-Black Panther's murder conviction last month heard arguments for his release on bail today.
All right, People versus Elmer G. Pratt.
It was a court-appointed attorney named Johnny Cochran who lost the case 25 years ago.
There's something kind of special about that number 25. I think this court could very well set this bail at $25,000.
And finally, Pratt himself spoke to thank the judge for throwing out his conviction because the prosecution failed to disclose its chief witness all those years ago was a government informer.
I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your fair and courageous ruling.
All right, bail will be set at $25,000.
The legal system that kept him in jail for 27 years for something he didn't do could not be justified by one judge having the guts to do the right thing.
Pratt has always maintained his innocence, as he did again today in an exclusive interview with CBS News.
No, my mother didn't raise a murderer. The last person I killed was in Vietnam.
As you know, the district attorneys decided to appeal.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think he made that decision?
I think it's a face-saving gesture. I would be the happiest person in probably the country if this case goes to a trial. This is what I've been wanting for years. We have the format, the basis to now call all the things that we did not know during trial, to finally have a fair trial and expose the truth.
What do you think of the justice system?
From looking at it for the last 27 years, it's everything from racist to classist to sexist to everything in between.
Pratt and the Panthers were regarded as a threat to national security because of their armed militancy and black power message, a message Pratt says is still relevant to today's black youth.
They're tired of being like dependent. They know I represent that we don't need anyone to give us any welfare, to give us anything. We can do it ourselves.
The DA's appeal could hang over his head for a year, but for now, he's out. Geronimo Pratt is free. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Santa Ana.
The Sunset Strip, the heart of Hollywood's music scene, where stars are born, and on this night, a star is hoping to be reborn. 8-time Grammy winner Natalie Cole is reinventing her sound, singing hit songs by performers like Fiona Apple, Aretha Franklin, and Neil Young. It's a different direction for a woman perhaps best known for singing jazz standards.
We are showcasing a new CD for those of you who wonder what the heck is going on. This is a new CD called Leavin'.
Leavin', as in leaving the past behind. She's betting her fans will follow.
You have those kind of fans that are pretty much willing to go wherever you want to because they just like you. There's something that you do that moves them, that touches them, that speaks to them.
She's spoken to them all right, selling more than 30 million records. 6 of her songs hit #1 on the R&B charts. But what else would you expect from Hollywood royalty? The daughter of the legendary Nat King Cole, Natalie Cole, has said she thought of her family as the Black Kennedys.
Mona Lisa, Mona Lisa, men have named you.
Nat King Cole sang the melody of his generation, becoming one of the first African Americans to have his own TV show. Music lovers couldn't get enough of his smooth and smoky voice.
You are my first love, my first and last love. Evening, Nat. Hi, Ed. How are you?
In 1957, fans were treated to a rare personal glimpse on Edward R. Murrow's Person to Person. Young Natalie made a cameo appearance.
This is Sweetie. Sweetie?
Yeah.
How many of those pups would you like to keep?
Oh.
From a little girl, I was always very mouthy, bossy, spontaneous, impulsive, all those things. And he always would just say, let it ride. You know, he liked that about me. He never tried to suppress it.
And there was something else.
He did say to a few people, I think she's got it. Whatever it is, he saw that. And I remember when I first sang with my dad, really professionally, I had to audition. He said, you're gonna have to show me that you can do this.
At 11 years old, she got the part.
I got to come out there and take a bow. And I probably got bitten that night, as they say, you know, and I like, ooh, I like this.
But 4 years later, lung cancer silenced Nat King Cole. 15-year-old Natalie was crushed.
And to lose a parent at that age is just devastating.
She went off to college, not planning on a life in show business. And when she did begin singing professionally, she found that being Nat King Cole's daughter was a mixed blessing.
After your father passed away, you lived for a long time in his shadow, the daughter of.
Right. That was my name.
The daughter of.
Yeah. And when I finally decided to start singing, I had to like really pitch a bitch to the promoters and to the owners of these clubs because they would literally put it on the marquee.
But soon everyone knew her name. In 1975, she struck gold with her first album, Inseparable.
This will be an everlasting love. This will be the one I've waited for. This will be the first time anyone has loved me.
The music world took note.
Natalie Cole.
She won the Grammy for Best New Artist. At 26, she assumed the King's throne. But behind the curtain, her life was out of control.
I can't say no.
There's a saying among the old church folks that you only see the glory, but you don't know the story.
Yeah. Natalie had developed a serious drug habit. She got hooked on heroin, cocaine, and alcohol, and lived dangerously close to the edge for years. In 1981, when fire swept through the Las Vegas Hilton, Cole got trapped inside her room. Having just played a gig, she and her bodyguard waited too long to escape.
I had pulled my paraphernalia, I had my drugs. I was getting ready to say, okay, this is the way I'm going. I guess I'm going out like this. And I was talking to God. And I said, if you want me to go, I'm going, this is how I'm going out. And when they had, axed the door down and came through, it was like Valhalla. I mean, it was like God was saying, I'm not through with you yet.
Still, it wasn't enough. In her frank autobiography, Cole reveals the most personal details of her struggle, later depicted in a made-for-TV movie.
Bye, Mommy.
Yo, Robbie, hey, little man.
Bye, Mister.
And he said he's going to take my baby if I don't stop getting high.
In 1983, she hit rock bottom and spent 6 months at the Hazelden Clinic in Minnesota.
They just gave me my life back, one day at a time. And it was such a revelation, actually, for me to start liking myself after all these years. I didn't realize I was still grieving for my father at 30-something.
It was a long way back to the top of the charts, but in 1989, she made it. And 2 years later, with the help of the man she missed the most, her career reached new heights. And this was your thank you to your dad?
Yeah, that was really my thank you. I owed that to him. Yeah.
She recorded the multi-Grammy-winning duet album Unforgettable with Love in the same Capitol studio her father used decades before.
They call this the house that Nat built, which is pretty nice testimony to Dad. Yeah.
Looking back, she says one of her biggest regrets was divorcing her first husband, songwriter Marvin Yancey, the father of her only son, Robbie. Robbie now tours with his mom.
Well, I've been a lot of places, and I've seen a lot of things.
After another divorce and a series of failed relationships, she's content to keep her private life private.
I had my share of heartbreak, stabbed me in my back.
Although the one original song on the new CD was written for the new man in her life.
5 minutes away, 5 minutes away. You know I went all around the world to find it was right at my door.
Whether fans embrace her new sound or not, Natalie Cole is on solid ground, and she says it feels good.
I think that I am a walking testimony to you can have scars, you can go through turbulent times and still have victory in your life.
You think your dad is proud of you now?
Oh yeah. If he saw me on stage last night, he'd be back there going like this.
I knew she was going to be like this.
I'm not surprised.
God bless you. Thank you so much.